Okay, so the next video we're going to go over is cleaning our file. So when I come into Photoshop, the first thing I like to do is clean the file, make sure there's no dust spots, which are very common unless you're cleaning your sensor on a regular basis. You're most likely going to have a few spots. If you're always changing your lenses out in the open, it's very easy to get some dust in there. It's not a major issue, but it is best to keep it clean. There's a couple of ways to clean it. You don't have to send it off to Canon to have it cleaned, or Nikon, or whoever your manufacturer it is. You don't have to get sensor swabs and get in there to your sensor and give it a good wipe. There's a simple way of just blowing it down and cleaning it down without touching anything. It doesn't cost any money, it doesn't damage a sensor, and it gets it probably 95 to 98% clean, leaving very few dust spots on there. It takes a few seconds to do it. So go on YouTube, you'll find a tutorial how to do it. But what it does, it saves you having to clean a huge amount of dust spots. It's quite frustrating doing this every time. But what we'll do, we do have a few dust spots on this file, and we're going to clean them and prepare the file. I like to get it clean at the start and not have to go over it again later on. So the first thing I do is I always keep my background layer, my background copy, as a base copy of my file with nothing done to it, no adjustments at all. So what I do is on background layer, you clicked on background layer, you can do a couple of different things. You can grab that background layer down onto the new layer, and that creates a background copy. Okay. Also, what you can do is you can go into right up to the top into layer, and you can go where is it, up here, duplicate layer, and it will make a copy. It's asking you what you want to call it. You can give it a name, hit OK, and it's got another copy. Or you can do what I like to do is just hit Command or Control J, which is the shortcut for copying a layer. So it will copy the layer that you're on. So if you have multiple layers, you've got to make sure you're on the correct layer before you copy. So once we've got our layer copied, it means I can make adjustments to this layer. I can clone, I can spot heal, I can do all sorts of things, but I can always go back to my base layer if I make any mistakes or if I'm not happy with what's been going on. I always have my background layer with nothing changed. Okay, so all we're going to do is very simply clean up the image. Okay, and the easiest way to do this, I think you should be at 100%. You can switch to your magnifying glass if you like, and just by clicking on the image it will go up by percentage. If you hold down the option or alt or option key, it will change that magnifying glass from a plus to a minus, and then you can go back down. I find it's best to have it at 100%. Okay, another quick way of resizing your image is by holding the command or control button and hitting the plus or minus. So minus will decrease the size and plus will increase. I find it best to do this at 100% and take your slider, your right hand slider, vertical slider, all the way up to the top, and your horizontal slider all the way to the left. So what this does, it gives us a really simple way of making sure that we have gotten to every square inch of the image. Now the tool we're going to be using in the palette here is the healing brush, or spot healing brush, I should say, which is the very first one. By default it's usually clicked on there anyway, but just to make sure. Now we can go into our brush and we can increase the size of our brush. Okay, what you want is the brush size to be a little bit bigger than the actual spots. Okay, it's not a huge issue, but I just find it's easier that way. Just by clicking on the outside of the image, that will close that dialog box. Now there's another way you can change the size of your brush. So if you just click on the brackets, which is just to the right of the letter P on your keyboard, you have the left bracket and the right bracket. Left will decrease the size of your brush, and right will increase the size of your brush. Okay. So if I just hold down over that spot, it disappears. Just click on there, hold it over and click. I'm using a pen tool rather than a mouse, so you can see I can actually alter the size of my brush. Also, what we want to make sure is that the hardness is down. Okay, so what that does is feathers the edge of the brush, so you can see now it's quite a soft edge as opposed to a hard edge, which is going to make it easier for Photoshop to make the adjustment and actually blend that dust spot in with its surroundings. What we're doing is also making sure we have content aware clicked. What content aware is, basically when you go over these dust spots and you click on them, what Photoshop is doing is taking what's inside the brush and outside and blending them together. So what it's also making sure is that Photoshop is aware of the content of that spot, whether it's a hard line or a soft tone or whatever it is, and it's making sure that it matches that with what's outside. And I'll show you a little bit closer when we come to something other than just open space. Okay, so once we make sure we're in this area, we're completely clean, what we go down is into this space beside the slider bar, and we just click once inside. And what that will do, it will move over one perfectly even space to the right, and we can then clean that area. Okay, so then we can clean that area. And some of these spots are quite faint, so sometimes it's a little bit hard to see them. I'm going to keep clicking over until we reach the other side. Okay, so we've cleaned all of that side, and now the next thing we're going to do is click down, check the area again, and then we're going to click back. So what this does is it ensures that we cover 100% of the image and make sure that there are no dust spots anywhere to be found. When you have dust spots on your image, and you may not see them if you put a photo on Facebook or if you put one on a website or something like that, it may not stand out as much, but as soon as you go and print a full-size print, that's when you are going to see those dust spots really stand out. So it doesn't take that long to go through a whole file. If you're using super high resolution cameras, some of the old medium format film cameras, when you're scanning the files, they're huge. It could take you an hour to do this. This is nothing, absolutely nothing compared to those files. They have a lot of hairs and so on because you're scanning actual film. So it really can take a couple of hours to finish cleaning on those files. But as you can see, this is not taking very long at all. Actually, more than halfway through. Once you get down into the water, it's not as noticeable. And definitely over the sand and the beach, you really won't see any dust spots. It's possible in this long exposure with the water to spot some. You could even go as far as, there's a little blue bottle there sitting on the beach. You could even, if you want, you can just remove that, and it does a pretty good job of removing things like that. So you could go around and clean the beach, but we'll cover that later on in another class, another video. Okay, so we're pretty much done. It's all the way down. We've only really got beach, a little bit of water left, but it is best to go through the process of covering the whole image to make sure you've got it perfectly clean. Okay, so we've cleaned the whole image. There are no more dust spots left on the file. Sometimes I think it is possible to miss the occasional spot, and I think I did see one just there. So here we go. So there you go. I have missed one because they are quite faint, and it does pay to just have another brief look over the image once you've completed. Okay, there we have our image. The sky and all the dust spots are very clean. We're ready to start the process of getting this photo looking as good as it can be. At this point, I very quickly save my file just so I have a saved copy. Photoshop is prone to crashing, and you will lose all the hard work you've just done cleaning that file. So if we just go into File, Save As, And this, let me just make this dialog window a little bit smaller so you can see. So it will open up this window. It will bring me back into the folder that the original file was in. We have lots of different options here. I wouldn't worry about that. It should open by default into Photoshop, which is a PSD, a Photoshop document. The layers will be ticked because we have 2 layers in there, and it's embedding the code that we have set up originally in Camera Raw, and we just hit save. Okay, so now I periodically, as I go through my processing of my image, I will hit Command S or Control S, and it will save my progress as I go through. So you never really, if something happens and the electricity goes, you're not going to lose too much information or too much of your hard work go to waste. Okay, we'll see you on the next video.